Manx Radio Sport.
Good evening and welcome to Friday Sport Preview on Manx Radio. Rob Pritchard and the team here with you for the next hour, looking ahead to this weekend's sporting action on the Isle of Man and beyond. So coming up tonight, the Premier League Top 2 and Division 2 Top 2 are all on the road in Manx football as we head into the second half of league fixtures in the Isle of Man season. We'll also hear from the boss of a side looking to keep up the pace towards the sharp end of Division 2. Targeting a club record winning streak on Saturday, FC Isle of Man's managers warning against complacency when they face struggling Pilkington tomorrow. So the Nomads chasing a place in the Cheshire Bowl final in tomorrow's rugby fixtures, and 2 league titles still up for grabs in the final weekend of mixed Manx hockey. That's all to come this evening. Very good evening. Welcome to Friday Sport Preview on Manx Radio. Rob Pritchard and the team to take you through all the football, rugby, hockey fixtures taking place on the Isle of Man and beyond this weekend. We say that though, we're keeping all our fingers and toes crossed that we can get some sporting action on the island this weekend with the imminent arrival of Storm Bert overnight. More details on the potential weather conditions coming in overnight and into tomorrow. Do keep an eye on the Ronalds Way Met Office online pages and channels as well. Plenty there on the Manx Radio website giving you a summary of the weather conditions as well as the potential travel implications as well to follow. Well, as it stands at the moment, with the weather coming in, we are still set to get a full schedule of football fixtures taking place, and to go through them as ever is Tony Mepham, our football correspondent. Tony, good evening. I think we're all just hoping that we can get some football action tomorrow.
We're waiting, aren't we, with anticipation, Rob, because that forecast doesn't sound too good from 4 o'clock in the morning onwards, and that's the critical part, I think, because if it comes early tonight, then I think the pitchers can deal with it, because a lot of hard work has been done throughout the summer, but the way it's coming in 4 or 5 o'clock and it's going to continue till 3, I am a little bit concerned.
Well, fingers crossed. Let's hope that we can get the games on. As it stands, all games set to go ahead as planned. We'll start off. Let's take a look at Saturday's fixtures. The Canada Life Men's Premier League, all games bar one, kicking off at 2 o'clock. Let's start with a trip to Croyt Lowy and Russian United, who are still just not quite finding their rhythm at the moment, I suppose, up against a Foxdale team who, after results elsewhere last weekend, have just narrowly missed out on the Railway Cup.
Yeah, and I feel for Foxdale because it missed out by 1 goal, which is hard to take, and Foxdale missing 1 or 2 key players now. I think Lee Gale, that's him for a while, for 2 or 3 months, because he's away travelling. Also, Steve Pritchard, speedy recovery for him. I think he had a knee injury and it's ACL problem as well, so he could be out for a while, but hopefully he'll get back into it. But as you rightly say, Russian United still trying to get things going on a consistent basis, and when you look at them at the league table, they're only sort of 7 points away from that bottom position, so a little bit worrying for Andrew Moody, but there's certainly a good young side in there, and if he can get the best out of them and they can score goals, that's the big problem for them, then they could pose a problem for Foxdale. But I still think with Jay Chatwood, Jason Charmer and others in there, they've got the goals still there, and I'm going to go for Foxdale to take the result.
Well, from a team that just missed out on the Railway Cup to one that managed to make their way in late on last weekend, Laxey getting a late 3-2 home win against Onken 6 days ago to book themselves a place in the Railway Cup. They're coming up against the league leaders, still undefeated league leaders, Ayr United at Glen Road. Now, Tony, Ayr United dropped points for a second week running. United, of course, have set themselves some pretty high standards in the last couple of years. But do you think teams are maybe just figuring them out a bit? Will Laxey smell an opportunity maybe tomorrow? I
think they will, because Laxey, when you look at them at the start of the season, it wasn't too good. Ayr United were really strong. I just don't know what is not quite going right for Ayr United at the moment, because they're conceding too many goals. When you look at the players that they've got there, they've got a good enough defence, they've got a good goalkeeper, so something needs to change a little bit, and I'm sure Nick Hurt, who's been away I think for a couple of games, will try and sort that one out. But I think Laxey at the moment are really in the thick of the action, and it's quite interesting. I've had 2 or 3 good conversations this week, Rob, from different people, and they feel that Ayr are looking at a defeat very shortly, because it's just not going right for them, and Laxey are that type of team who can beat them. It's a tight pitch down at Laxey there, but I think Johnny Palmer's team are doing really well. They're sort of in the draw for the semi-final of the Railway Cup, which we'll do tomorrow night, and I just think this could be the game that Ayr are going to find very, very difficult. This is the game you sent me to cover, and I'm going to go for Ayr just to take it.
Very well. When we mentioned Ayr United dropped points, they came from 3-0 down to draw 3-3 with Ramsey, who were on her home soil this weekend at the Balaclone Stadium, up against St George's team that are second from bottom and occupying that second place along with Moran inside the relegation zone at the moment. Tony, who needs the points more here?
I think St George's need the points. When you look at Ramsey, Dylan Pickles is back in the squad now, so that's the last 2 games he's played, sub for the first one, and then last week he played, and he looks, okay. He's coming back from this injury, so they'll sort of just nurture him a little bit because he is an important player for them. But Ramsey, if you look at it at the start of the season, I think most people expected them to be right up there, top 3, top 4, challenging for the Railway Cup, and they're in 9th place. And again, they've had a lot of changes in the team, so they've got to try and sort that one out. But St George's, on paper, I've got some really experienced players there, but when you're sort of 39, 40 years of age, the legs get a little bit harder, so I'm going to go for Ramsey to take the result.
We mentioned Ayr United towards the top of the table and Peel in second. Well, they cut the gap to just 2 points between themselves and Ayr United at the top. Peel are also on the road this weekend at St John's United.
Well, they are, and Peel, the talisman, was back in last week and scored 4 goals. That's Thomas Brown, and I think certainly Peter Kenyick, the manager, will be happy enough with the way the young players are sort of gelling together. They're looking really good. The older, more experienced people like Matthew Woods and others are in there sort of just helping along, just passing their experience. But certainly against St John's, it's always a close battle. They're not far away from each other. St John's will be without Sam Ingham. He got sent off last week. He was only on a minute, Rob, and he got the red card. So without him at the back, I think it's going to be really difficult. A lot of responsibility on Will Penn-Holrick, and I just feel that there will be too much for them to deal with, and I'm going to go for Peel.
Elsewhere, we mentioned the Railway Cup and Laxey qualifying. Well, the fourth of the 4 teams to go into this year's competition is Corinthians. They managed a 2-2 draw with fellow Railway Cup contenders last weekend, St Mary's. St Mary's dropping out of that. Of course, the odds were against them, but still to get a point against Corinthians was good. Corinthians are away at bottom of the table. Moran, who, Tony, of course, did pick up that big result a couple of weeks ago, but got brought back to reality maybe a bit with that comprehensive defeat at home to Peel.
Yeah, it did, and they sort of knew that was going to come, and they'll be looking at this game and thinking, well, we can maybe get something out of Corinthians, because last year Moran won this one at the Moran playing fields, and they'll be looking to do the same again, because certainly with those 3 points, if they could get them tomorrow, it puts them in a far better position. But Corinthians really struggled last week, I thought, against St Mary's, even though they got it to 2-2, and they'll be looking for a confidence booster on this one just in a couple of weeks' time, and in the Railway Cup semi-finals. And I just think Corinthians will be a little bit too strong with them, and with the form of Joe Middleton and Joe Marquez up front, they should get the goals, and hopefully that'll be the difference.
Lastly, but certainly not least in the Canada Men's Premier League, the early kick-off, 1:45 is at the Bowl. The aforementioned St Mary's will be hosting Union Mills. Yeah,
this will be a battle and a half, because I thought St Mary's last week were excellent. I thought they played really well against Corinthians. They're good going forward. Whoever's available for them, we'll wait and see, because when you look at last week, Adam Adebayi scored for FC Isle of Man. I'm not too sure where we are with the squad this week, and you've got Dan Hattersley as well, and it's a shame they didn't have him, because they create so many chances. Joe Burquist down that right hand side with his pace, Therese Thompson in that midfield worked hard, and it's just led at the back perfectly by Carl Clark. So I think St Mary's will have the upper hand against Union Mills, but don't bet against Union Mills, because Ryan Kelly's got a good, strong squad there. And again, Jordan Crawley, Tyler Hughes and others are good enough to take the game and take the points away from St Mary's, but I'm going to go for St Mary's.
Indeed. And just before we move on, you mentioned Adam Adebayi and Dan Hattersley there. Dan Hattersley not in the FC Isle of Man squad. Mm-hmm. Adam Adebayi is for the trip to Pilkington tomorrow. Moving on to Arderne and Drugger Limited Division 2, 4 games all at 2 o'clock kickoffs tomorrow. We'll start with the league leaders, Douglas High School Old Boys, 3 points clear at the top at the moment. They're going to head to Douglas Royal, Tony. Yeah,
Douglas High School Old Boys are absolutely flying. And when you look at it last year, it didn't quite go for them, but this year it's all coming together. They've got a lot of good young players in there. And, I've watched them recently. They're very, very strong. Douglas Royal, it's hard to predict, because a lot of new players have come into that team. So I've got to stick with Old Boys. The league table doesn't lie, and when they've only sort of dropped those points in one draw, it speaks to me that it's going to be Old Boys that will take the result.
Yeah, the only undefeated side remaining in Division 2 at the moment, Douglas High School Boys. Their nearest challengers are Braddon, 3 points further back. They're on the road as well. They're at Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys, who are fourth in the table, Tony.
Yeah, that's a tricky one, this one, Rob, because at the start of the season, Ramsey Youth Centre didn't have the start that they wanted, conceding plenty of goals. But now Braddon have really got it together. And, when you look at the good results lately, they've had one against Colby. And then when you look at it right the way through the team, they've got some really good players. And Liam Kane last week with 4 goals for his new club. You've got, just right the way through, they're looking strong. And I just think Braddon will be too strong for Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys. But they've got good players in there as well. Tony Cole at one, good experience. And if they can get the goals and keep things nice and tight at the back, they could do it, but I don't think so.
Well, alongside Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys, another team looking to keep pace with the top 2 at the moment is Colby. They're going to be hosting Michael United, a new look Michael United, of course, with the changes they've been through in the last few weeks. Yeah,
it could have been quite different if you'd looked at the squad 4 weeks ago, but now it's got to be Colby, and Colby are putting a really good challenge on. We'll find out some news about them very shortly, but they've still got that game in hand as well. They've only played 9. The 2 boys above them have played 10. But Carl Hickey, a couple of years ago, he missed near enough the whole season due to injury, but he's come in, looks strong. I look at Steve Collister's goalkeeper. I was impressed with him on the Old Boys game. And again, they've just got to keep things nice and tight at the back, let the boys up front score the goals for them. And at the moment with Michael sort of just patching the team up together, credit to them, but it's going to be a tough old game against Colby.
And the remaining game in Ardern and Druggan Limited Division 2 sees Pulrose United going steady at the moment in mid-table up against Maloo at home.
Yeah, and they're coming across one of the most potent players, I think, in Division 2 at the moment, and that's Kieran Krippner. And, Kieran's a really good player, and his brother's there as well, Brandon. Dean Kinley's knocking around the squad as well. So when you've got players of that quality, you're always in with a chance. But Pulrose have really put some good performances together. And if they can carry that on, then they'll make it difficult for Maloo. And I'm going to go for Pulley just to sneak it.
OK, well, let's take a quick look through the combination leagues. 5 games in Canada Life, combination 1, Tony, tomorrow. Yeah,
Foxton against Russian. This is going to be a tough one if that weather comes down, but Russian should win that. Ayr United against Laxey. I'll go with Ayr. Peel against St John's. I'm going to go for St John's to take the result. Corinthians against Moran. What a game that was last week. 9-7. Corinthians got beat, if you remember that one, against St Mary's. I'll go for Corinthians to win. And Union Mills against St Mary's. I'm going to go with St Mary's to take the points there.
Yeah, it took a double take on that Corinthians St Mary's scoreline.
5-1 up at our time.
16 goals in that game. It was incredible. And 5 games, of course, in Ardern and Druggan Limited combination 2 tomorrow.
Yeah, combination 2. Castletown against Douglas Athletic. Douglas Athletic to take the points. Old Boys against Douglas Royal. Old Boys right up in the mix at the top of the table. Old Boys to win. Jims against Douglas and District. Both teams battling it out at the bottom of the table. I'm going to go for Douglas and District to win. Braddon against Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys. Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys take the result there. And Michael United against Colby. Colby flying, scoring plenty of goals like the first team. I'm going to go with Colby.
Thank you, Tony. We'll be back with you in just a few moments now. We're going to get the perspective on Division 2 this week. One of those teams looking to try and keep in touch with the likes of Douglas High School, Old Boys and Braddon toward the top of the table. They've been in and around the sharp end for the last few years. So maybe what might it take in the long run to continue to push towards the top end and maybe, just maybe in future, look to challenge for a place in the top tier? Well, I'm delighted to be joined in the studio now live by Colby first team manager Harry Kyriacou. Thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Now, first off, you've taken on the role relatively recently as well.
Yes.
So, two-pronged question, really. How recently, for those who don't know, and how have you found this new role?
I took the role for the last six, maybe 7 games of last season when our manager left. And it was only supposed to be just to the end of the season, but I was persuaded by Kevin Niverton, our chairman, to stay on for this season. So this is my first full season. I'm really enjoying it.
I suppose on from that, really, looking at the season so far. So currently third in the table on 18 points, just ahead of Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys on goal difference, and that puts you a few points behind Braddon in second. But how would you describe your side's start to the season generally?
I think our season's been great. The last couple of results against the top 2 have been difficult. Conceding 7 goals in both games has made it difficult for us to get anything out of those games, and But on the whole, I think we've had a great season so far. We're really building. It's the first season really with this squad. We've had a lot of new players, which has Also helped our combi team because they're flying high, and I have to give credit to Josh McPhee, the manager of the combi team, who's taken some of the last season's first team players and built a really strong squad there. So that's enabled us to have 2 really strong teams. So very pleased with how it's going, but still we can improve, obviously.
And just for a bit of context for those who don't know those results that Harry was just mentioning there against the other sides, last weekend a 7-4 home defeat to Bradden in second, and then back on the 26th of October a 6-1 defeat away at Douglas High School Old Boys. I suppose the million-dollar question is whether it's in the short term or the long term. What do you believe it might take just to take this Colby first team to the next level and start pushing up alongside the likes of Douglas High School Old Boys and Bradden?
I don't think we're far away. I think those 2 games, it's just been a little bit near misses. For sure, if you concede 13 goals, then it's going to be very difficult. So we have to tighten up a little bit at the back as a team, but not just the defence. And we have to just be a little bit more clinical. So it's really in the 2 boxes that's let us down in those 2 games, where before that in the season we've been really strong. We've been taking our chances. We've been keeping the teams out at the other end. So just in the 2 boxes, really a little bit more clinical in the final third and a little bit tighter at the back.
Just on that again, but on a bit of a flip side, really. Yes, obviously, I'm asking you a question there about why you may be just a little bit behind some of your contenders, but we've seen Colby in the last few years, and I know Tony will attest to this, being towards the sharp end quite consistently alongside the likes of Michael United, for example, in the last few years as well. How much of a solid base do you think that means that the club has in terms of this is where we're at the moment, but we've got a good set of values and principles that could take us forward?
Yeah, I think what really impressed me about Colby and why I was really pleased to get involved is it's a good club, run by nice people, really welcoming. So I'm, as you could probably tell from the accent, I'm not from the island, so but that was no issue. Really welcoming to myself, to my son, and from day one, and it really. That's the core of Colby, and it's a real team, a real team ethic. Both teams are really close, so when the first team is not playing, the combi team are there watching, and vice versa. We'll train together. This season, we're getting to the point where we're needing to turn players away. We've got 30 players at training twice a week, which is not so easy to coach and train with 30 players, but it's fantastic. Even this week, we had another 2 new players. And that's because people want to join Colby now. They obviously can see what we're trying to do. They can see we're trying to play football in the right way. And everyone's welcome. And I think that's what's the key to Colby's success.
And just one final question, I guess, in the immediate look into this weekend. Michael United, your opponents this weekend. Now, it's a club that elsewhere has had a bit of upheaval in the last few weeks. So what kind of challenge maybe are you expecting this weekend?
Probably the first game of the season, I would say, it was our toughest game. We beat them 2-1 away, and it was a close game. But since then, they've had a lot of change. So we're not really sure what to expect. But we've got to be ready for anything, and we've got to have the right attitude. If we don't, then for sure we can get beat. So we just need to be ready, have the right attitude, and approach a game in the right way.
Harry Kyriacou, Colby first team manager, thank you very much for joining us this evening, and all the best for the rest of the season. Well, moving on, an in-form FC Isle of Man could set a new club record winning streak if they claim maximum points on the road this weekend. In the first of a double-header of away matches in the next fortnight, the Ravens head to St Helens to face a Pilkington side currently just hovering above the relegation zone. The Manx side got out of jail last week on home soil. After going 2 down, they managed to fight back in the second half to snatch a 3-2 win over Burscough. Well, going into this latest tie, FC Isle of Man manager Paul Jones is once again warning against complacency, given the gap between themselves and Pilkington in the current league standings.
Manx Radio Sport.
Yeah, it's very important. Pilkington have run Bury and Ramsbottom very close this year. You could probably argue they should have been at least 1, maybe 2 goals up in the games they've played against those 2 teams who are at the top of the table at the minute. So yeah, they seem to be able to raise their performance levels against the teams towards the top end. And if we're not probably focused and concentrated, then they'll make life very difficult for us. So yeah, it's really important we don't underestimate them. And as we've said, nearly every time we speak, it doesn't matter what position a team is in the league, everyone's able to beat everybody else in this division.
Returning to St Helens, a place where you didn't have a great deal of fortune earlier in the season against Pilkington's neighbours, FC St Helens lost out 5-4, and certain aspects of that performance you were particularly scathing about. How important is it you avoid any of those, I think in your terms, basic errors going into this weekend?
Yeah, really important. I think, well, touch wood, we haven't been making that level of error since the first kind of 10 or 11 games. That's why we're kind of doing so well at the moment. We're much more consistent in terms of making better decisions in our half of the pitch. That was a very different game and a very different evening, and Pilkington's 3G will provide another challenge. It's quite sticky and grippy because of the amount of rubber that's on there. So yeah, we just need to approach it, like we would playing against, any team in this division. But ideally, we're trying to set ourselves up to approach every game like we're playing against a team 2 or 3 divisions higher than us, because we really do need that level of focus and concentration through to the end of the season to make sure we give ourselves the best chance possible of doing well.
After last weekend's comeback win at home to Bursko, you mentioned in our post-match interview that you felt you weren't really playing at your best as a team, but still managed to get the results over the line. So over the last week, how have you been looking to improve in areas where you maybe thought you weren't quite at the standards you were expecting?
Yeah, good question. We've did a lot of work on Tuesday on with the ball and giving players that kind of like confidence, hopefully, that they're good. They can play. They can play in tight spaces. They can pass and cause problems for the opposition with the quality. And, I think we saw that towards the end of the game, certainly in the middle half an hour of the second half. But I think we can do that over a full 90 minutes. So, we've spent a bit of time having lots of touches of the ball, lots of opportunities to improve and build their confidence in that area. But I'm not saying they're unconfident. It just was maybe not quite as slick as we'd liked it to have been on Saturday, and hopefully that pays dividends when we play Pilkington this weekend.
Now, during the Bursko game, we saw a couple of players nursing injuries. A couple did have to go off, forced into some changes. We saw a couple of the key figures like Alex Maitland and Dean Pennington have to go off. Carl Watson was struggling. So in terms of the squad status, how's it looking going into this weekend?
Really good, yeah. Alex did well to catch his hamstring, so to speak, before it turned into anything really major. He's not quite ready for this weekend, but it hasn't turned into a bigger problem, which was good, and everybody else has really recovered really well after the game on Saturday, so they're available for selection, which is great news for me. The team might be slightly different potentially. I won't really know until we see what the weather conditions are like on Saturday, because it's not due to be great, is it? I don't think so. It might be a change or two to the team, but that would be tactical rather than because of any injuries. Everyone's available other than Alex Maitland's. So yeah, we've got a really strong group, and I don't envisage many changes at all from the squad that we had on Saturday.
We've talked about it the last few weeks, that sort of ability to grind out results or get back into games where you don't feel your best. Bursko maybe encapsulated that a little bit. How important is it that you can harness that if needed against a Pilkington side who you did lose away to last season?
Yeah, very important. I think that is something that has maybe been lacking in previous seasons, but very, very evident this season. We're only really that Cheadle away game, that the game slipped away from us completely. Every other game this season, it's been close. There's been a goal in it, really. So we know that we've got a really resilient group, and now that group is demonstrating that they can find ways to win football matches on a consistent basis. We really believe we can keep this run going. Like it'll be a big test on Saturday, and it's more important, how we approach things when things aren't going quite our way. You maybe that 10 minutes before half time against Bursko, whether the goal was over the line or not, our reaction to that was not ideal and gave them a second goal, and then our reaction to that wasn't ideal, and that's when we can enter kind of self-destruct mode a little bit at times, and I've not seen that very often at all this season. In fact, that's probably that little 10-minute spell which we're able to recover from was probably one of the first times we've seen it. So it comes from a good place, but if we can keep focusing on what we do well, keep focusing on ourselves and not getting distracted by decisions or other players or the crowd or whatever else it might be, then we do well more often than not, and that's got to be a big focus for us on Saturday, because I'm sure Pilkington will be doing absolutely everything they can to make it a very, very difficult day for us, and we've got to kind of rise above that a little bit and make sure we stick to what we're good at.
FC Alabama manager Paul Jones ahead of his side's NWCFL Premier Division tie away at Pilkington. Pilkington versus FC Alabama kicking off at the PSD Stadium tomorrow in St Helens at 2 p.m. The FC Alabama squad to make the journey to St Helens is as follows: Adam Adebayi, Sam Baines, Luke Booth, Ryan Burns, Jamie Corlett, Jacob Crook, Danny Gerrard, Charlie Higgins, Adam Killier, Ronan McDonnell, Jack McVeigh, Dean Pennington, Callum Sherry, Kyle Watson and Steve Whitley. Alex Maitland, of course, who came off at half-time with an injury in the win against Burscough. He is not included. Corlett comes in for him in the 1-4 change. And Dan Hattersley, who we mentioned a moment ago as well, he drops out of the squad this weekend. Well, actually, Tony, just in the immediate, looking at that squad to start with, now we did see a couple of players nursing injuries. Alex Maitland came off around half-time, doesn't feature. But Dean Pennington, who we saw struggling, is fit enough to make the squad. How important could he be this weekend?
Massive. I think we saw it last week. He's very tricky, okay. Burscough scored 2 goals, they were 2-0 up, but I just thought FC Isle of Man were in the game. And if you remember at half-time we were having a chat, and I just thought they needed to change things a little bit. And what a sort of alteration Paul Jones did. It was bold to put 3 substitutes on, and there's Adam Adebayo, he scores one of the goals. I thought Ryan Burns was superb at the back, and Jamie Collett will come in, I'm sure, alongside him tomorrow, unless he plays the full-back and they bring him in. But I think the big problem is with Alex, the hamstring injury that he's got. It's not too severe. I spoke to Alex after the game, so hopefully it's not too long. But I just think all round, the second half performance was fantastic. They deserved to get back into it. Steve Whitley's goal was brilliant. And then Charlie Higgins, I want a little bit more from Charlie, because if there's 2 imposing players that FC Isle of Man have, it's Charlie Higgins and Dean Pennington. But it's all to play for. They're flying at the moment, and let's hope it continues.
And just very quickly, got around 30 seconds here, but Pilkington, let's not forget, did beat FC Isle of Man on their home soil last season as well. Been a bit more challenging for them in terms of results maybe and the stats in the table this season, but Paul Jones again emphasising, warning against complacency. How important is that going to be? Yeah,
I don't think there's complacency in the team at all, Rob. And, last week I just thought Luke Booth just wasn't given enough of the ball, so he found it difficult to get into the game. So fair play to them right the way through. But I just think at the moment they're playing so well, the confidence is high. And once you've got that type of confidence right the way through the team, the whole lot, then, bring it on. Whoever comes in front of you, they saw it last week, 2-0 down, 1-3-2. That just shows the character that they've got at the moment.
Excellent, Tony. Thank you very much again. They'll be catching up with you on Saturday live again tomorrow with Paul Moran on Saturday Sport Classified with Simon Kwan and Full Time as well. We're going to be taking a look at another busy schedule in Manx Rugby next this weekend. Don't go away. We'll be back in a few moments.
Manx Radio Sport.
Welcome back to Friday Sport Preview on Manx Radio. We're turning now our attention to a busy rugby schedule taking place this weekend. There have been changes throughout the week, and also, in fact, in the last few minutes to the teams that will be involved in their respective competitions. Joining us now is our rugby correspondent, Dave Christian. Dave, very good evening. Now, we first of all, before we get to the games that we understand are taking place as it stands, we've seen some changes throughout the week for Vagabonds Men and Ramsey, and also in just the last few minutes we've found out a bit of an update with regards to Vagabonds Ladies game as well.
Yeah, it's been a challenging week, at least for me anyway. We had first thing was it was actually last weekend, and I'm sorry, Saturday I missed it, but Vagabonds were due to play Old Bedians. They conceded a walkover last Saturday in Counties 3 ADM. And the club put out a statement on Sunday just to say that they decided that with challenging player numbers, trying to operate 2 teams, and the challenges that playing in the English Clubs Championship give, that they were going to withdraw with immediate effect. So they're going to concentrate on putting their second team out in the Northwest Regional Leagues, known as the Norrie Wool in rugby circles, and that's their position. So you can't fault them for that. They've given it a go. They've got 8 fixtures in or something like that. It's not really working out for them, and that's that. So Vagabonds were left high and dry. Then on Monday, email arrives from Wallasey, who Ramsey were due to play in the Cheshire Vars competition. Ramsey win puts Ramsey through to the final. Any other result would probably hand it to either Prenton or Wallasey. I suspect Wallasey were probably a dead rubber by this stage. they've decided, well, not decided, they've had a string of injuries within the squad, including to their front row. They can't field a team on Saturday, and they decided to concede that fixture as well, which kind of left Ramsey high and dry, but with about £4,500 worth of travel that's non-refundable. It gave it a little bit of a headache. We managed to get a replacement fixture on for Ramsey. They're playing Wigan's second team. Wigan's first team are top of the division above Vagabonds, so Counties 2 ADM, and we figure with a bit of a chat with the Wigan second team manager, fair play to them for offering to host Ramsey in a fixture. We've got a game on for them, and that's about as much as we can go with there. And then, of course, Storm Burt arrived on the horizon, and we found that we've got challenging conditions possibly for travel tomorrow. And Vagabonds Ladies were due to play Littleborough in Women's NC2 North-South Division. And they've just announced that their game's going to be off. Now, I'm guessing that's linked to the Loganair early morning flight to Manchester, which has been cancelled. Ramsey are due to fly out at 9:45 for their game at Wigan. That flight at the moment is still due to go. But again, that'll depend on the wind and weather conditions pretty much in the morning. So we'll keep everybody updated when that goes on. What I don't know is in Regional 2 Northwest what Eccles travel arrangements are for their fixture against Douglas. At the moment, we're assuming it's on, but if Eccles, which is the Manchester area, are due to fly back into the Isle of Man on the return leg of that Loganair Manchester flight first thing, then that may cause them some difficulties as well, because if the plane doesn't leave the Isle of Man, it's certainly not going to be leaving Manchester an hour and a half later. So we'll wait and see what that is. At the moment, the assumption is that Douglas will play Eccles. It's at Portishead, Regional 2 Northwest, kick-off 1:30. Douglas have a big day tomorrow as well. They have their Melia straight after the match at 6:30. And they've had some difficulties with team selection, and the team news is out. And no doubt you'll run through it later, but I'm just picking the bones out of it. It's great to see Gerhard Verzaghi come back into the front row. They missed him, but there's no Simon Hodgenot, nor am I seeing Liam Kirkpatrick on the team sheet, but Bryn Snellgrove does come in the 10 jersey. That's great news for Douglas. And also on the bench, worth a mention, Ryan Wren making his debut. He's the latest player to leave Ramsey to go and play League Rugby, because Ramsey don't have any. He's following Nathan Robson, who's going to start in the 9 jersey for Douglas tomorrow. And Ryan Wren sneaking onto the bench. He'll be second row, back row, but mobile player. He'll get around the park as well as he can, and it'll be interesting to see how he goes with Douglas.
Well, here is that Douglas squad currently due to face Eccles. 1:30pm kickoff at Portishead tomorrow. From numbers 1 to 15 in order, it's Ralph Clark, Gerhard Verzaghi, Owen Carvin, Connor Garland, the captain, Blake Snell, Blake Everson, Mark Oldfield, Harry Cartwright, Nathan Robson, Bryn Snellgrove, Charlie Henthorne, Josh Duncan, Harry Hewsome, Callum Dentith and Carl Martin. 3 substitutes for Phil Kringle's side. They are Brendan Kelly, Richard Bell and the aforementioned Ryan Wren. When we actually do look at that table again, Dave, with Douglas, all 3 of their victories have come at home so far this season. And apart from, they have 7 bonus points at the moment as well. Only the top 2, Furwood, Waterloo and Bowden, have more bonus points than them as well. With their recent form at home, do you think they'll fancy their chances in this one?
Excuse me, but yes, for sure. A home advantage counts for a lot. It means you're normally guaranteed to get your strongest side out possible on the day. Obviously, Douglas are missing a couple, but I don't think that'll dent them at all. Weather conditions are going to play a part. Maybe one of those forward-orientated games, particularly if there's been a lot of heavy rain. And I would suspect, and I'm only guessing here, Douglas may have a couple of pitchers on standby because Portishead has a habit of gathering a lot of standing water, and they won't want to have got Eccles over here to have the referee declare the pitch unplayable. We had that last season. I think it was Kirby Lonsdale, and there was a big effort to try and ship them up to Ballafletcher to play the game there, where the drainage is a little bit better. But at the time, there wasn't enough time to get everybody up, showered, and get Kirby Lonsdale back to Ronaldsway for their flight home. So it's going to be tricky for everybody tomorrow, I would think, with the weather forecast. Douglas in particular at Portishead. First of all, will Eccles make it? And secondly, will the pitch be okay? Because heavy and persistent rain from 3 o'clock in the morning till lunchtime is not not going to make it a pleasant place to play. So Douglas's forwards, I think, are going to get a good workout if that game goes ahead.
Indeed, we'll just have to wait and see. So finally, we'll just head to Southern Nomads as well, due to take on Aldershot in the Cheshire Bowl. Southern Nomads, if they gain 2 points or more, will earn a place in the final, I think I'm right in saying, Dave. So from Southern Nomads' perspective, of course, we are caveating all of this, including the football side of things and the hockey side of things, when we come to that in the show in a few minutes' time. That we hope this goes ahead with the weather. That could very much change. Southern Nomads, though, should things go ahead, how will they feel going into this game against Aldershot?
They'll be very confident. They actually top the table. It's I know it's the Cheshire Bowl. It's essentially a knockout competition, but a league phase comes first. Nomads have won both their opening matches and are top of the table. They have 10 points. They can still mathematically be overtaken, but it seems unlikely. Western Vikings and Port Sunlight, don't know whether that game is going ahead. I'm assuming not. Vikings have been struggling a little bit and they haven't let me know. But Nomads going away to Aldershot, they'll be confident to pick up points there and pick up enough points to get over the hurdle. And I think I have a feeling Port Sunlight have 6 points. They'll gain 5 against Western Vikings if Vikings don't honour that fixture. So that'll put them to 11. Nomads then will just need 1 point because they've already beaten Port Sunlight in the competition, and that's what the deciding factor will be if the two teams are tied. So good news for Southern Nomads. They've got 1 foot in the final pretty much. That is likely to be against either Aldershot or Port Sunlight, depending on what the result is of these games that are due this weekend. Don't know when it's going to be played. Or similarly, we don't know when Ramsey's game will be played against New Brighton and Cheshire Vars. Cheshire have promised that they won't try and make it a midweek fixture under floodlights. They'll try and find suitable dates so the games can be played in the UK towards the end of the season, which is great news because the last thing an Isle of Man team needs, as FC Isle of Man will well know, is having to play away under floodlights midweek. You've got potentially 2 days off work for everybody, and it's just not a nice place to be.
And finally, Dave, before we let you go, just a general question, really. Should we see any disruption to tomorrow's fixtures, regardless of who the teams involved or in the leagues? What does it mean from your perspective or the England RFU's perspective in terms of trying to get those games rearranged? Will we see them? Is it more likely, for example, we could see them pushed to the end of the season or tried to be played as soon as possible?
Well, Douglas will be stuck with a very formulaic approach for the English Clubs Championship. They'll be directed to play it on the next available date. However, that will be caveated with whatever travel arrangements are needed. For Vagabonds, that game won't be rescheduled at all. Old Bedians are pulled. Vagabonds are likely to get either 5 points or Old Bedians' results for the whole season will just be removed from the structure. Ramsey, doesn't really matter, it's only a friendly. Vagabonds Ladies, that will follow the formulaic approach of the League Rugby. And for Southern Nomads and Port Sunlight, I'm not really sure. That'll be down to Cheshire to determine. If Nomads have had non-refundable travel, then they may be on a bit of a sticky wicket here and they may have to go again. That's a wait-and-see job, I think.
Dave, thank you very much indeed. Dave Christian, our rugby correspondent there. So just a reminder of the situation with the games that are due to be taking place in Manx rugby tomorrow. As it stands at the moment, Douglas's game against Eccles in Regional 2 Northwest at Portashire, kick-off at 1:30pm. That is still due to go ahead as planned, but we will wait for further details to come. We've heard in the last few minutes that Vagabonds Ladies trip to Littleborough due to take place at 12:45 tomorrow, women's NC2 North-South. That is now not taking place due to Vagabonds Ladies' flights due to take them off island being cancelled tomorrow morning. For Vagabonds men, they were due to play Old Bedians, as Dave mentioned before, but Old Bedians have since withdrawn from Counties 3, 8am Lancashire, Cheshire, so that game no longer taking place. Ramsey, meanwhile, although their competitive game against Wallasey in the Cheshire Vars has now been cancelled due to Wallasey being unable to field a team, Ramsey are still due to play in a friendly tomorrow against Wigan's second team. That also a 1:30 kickoff over in Lancashire as well. And of course, Southern Nomads looking to book their place in the Cheshire Bowl final. They are due to take on Aldershot tomorrow. If there are any updates with regards to those fixtures and their status, we will bring you that, of course, as soon as possible. Okay, we're going to take a quick short break and then we're going to turn to what looks like it could be a very dramatic finale to the 2024 Manx Hockey League season. Don't go away, back in a few moments.
Manx Radio Sport.
Finally, tonight on Friday Sport Preview, we're going to take to what looks set to be a dramatic finale to the 2024 Mixed Hockey League season. The final games of the league campaign taking place this Saturday, and two titles, the Mixed Premier League and Mixed Division 3, both still up for grabs. In the Mixed Premier League, the top two, they will face off in a huge showdown, whilst in Mixed Division 3, no less than 3 teams have the chance to take the silverware this weekend. To go through things this weekend, once again, is our hockey correspondent Ben Cunningham. Ben, very good evening.
Good evening, Rob. It's good to see you back on your side of the desk and I'm back on my side.
I know we switched roles last time, didn't we? Thought you did a great job, to be fair. Okay, let's take a look at the league fixtures then. We'll start with the Mixed Premier League then, and we'll start with that huge game between the top two. 2 o'clock at the NSC, the leaders Backers A, 2 points clear of Vikings A in second. Now, Ben, as it stands, of course, 2 points means Vikings A could draw level with Backers A, but goal difference has got this hugely in Backers A's favour.
Yeah, and as we were just talking off there, it's come towards the end of the season, that goal difference is a massive point to have. You look at Backers, they've got a goal difference of 40 goals, whereas Vikings A have got 20. So it's going to be a tough ask for Vikings. Something must drastically go wrong for Backers if Vikings do take it on the day.
Yeah, to put some numbers on that, to what Ben's saying there, Vikings A would have to win, and by 10 or more goal margin.
Yeah, so it's a big ask, but it's not been seen before, so we'll see what happens. But we are going to cover this game for Saturday Live. But when you look at the goals against him, of course, Backers have only conceded 10, whereas Vikings have only conceded 9. So they've both got good defensive records. So it's going to be a good game.
Taking a look at the other 3 games then. 12:35 pushback at the NSC sees Harlequins A in third in the table, so a good season for them so far, up against Vikings B, steady in mid-table.
Yeah, a good season for both teams. They've really shown their class this season. Harlequins will be really made up if they can take that third place spot. However, though, Vikings B, they lost out to them earlier in the season, and they'll hope to get revenge this weekend, but I think Harlequins are going to get it on the day.
And we mentioned a title battle. There's a big battle at the bottom as well. 12:35 at Kyriacou in the Premier League between Backers B, second from bottom on 2 points. Valkyries B, bottom at the moment. They have no points in the current campaign, 9 defeats from 9. Valkyries B, though, would manage to save themselves if they were to win, but they would also have to score 5 or win by a 5-goal or bigger margin.
Yeah, yet again, it's come down to goal difference here again, and it is in favour of Backers B. Okay, they've got 2 points, but if Valkyries B can get a good result here, it could turn things around, but the danger isn't over just yet for Backers B.
And the final game in the Mixed Premier League sees the champions from last season. They're not defending their title this season, though. Valkyries A up against Castletown Celts, 2 o'clock.
Yeah, Valkyries will be disappointed they've not been able to retain their championship status. Castletown Celts, though, they've had a good season, mixed bag of results. I think they'll just be happy if they can get a win this weekend over Valkyries. So I'm going to go for a Castletown Celts win here.
Very well. Mixed Division 1. Now, those things have been decided top and bottom. Castletown Southerners were crowned Mixed Division 1 champions last weekend. Vikings D confirmed as relegated into Mixed Division 2. But 3 games there this weekend.
Yeah, the first one's 12:35, and that's Vikings D against Valkyries D at Castle Rushen High School. Going to go for a Valkyries C win there. 12:35 at King William's College is the champions Castletown Southerners against Backers C. I'm going to go for a Southerners win on that one. And then 2 o'clock at Ramsey Grammar School is Vikings C against Ramsey A, and I'm going to go for a Ramsey A win.
And quickly as well, Mixed Division 2, that's another that's already been decided. Harlequins B already crowned champions. Great season for Harlequins B so far, looking to try and make it a 100% record, 10 wins from 10 this weekend. Valkyries D relegated from Mixed Division 2 this season. 3 games there on Saturday.
And the first one is the champions, Harlequins B. They play Backers Colts at QE2 at 11:05. 12:35 is Castletown Cushags against Ramsey Ravens at Ramsey Grammar School. And then Valkyries D against Castletown Camags is at 2 o'clock at Castle Rushen High School.
Now, this is the other big division we want to keep an eye on. Mixed Division 3. There are 3 teams going into tomorrow in contention for the title. Castletown Cosney are top on 12 points at the moment. Backers D, second on 12 points, only behind on goal difference, considerably so, though, in terms of goal difference. And Vikings E, third on 11 points, with a goal difference of plus 18. Castletown Cosney, a goal difference of plus 30. Backers D, a goal difference of just plus 3. And what's a big thing here is that Castletown Cosney, the lead, is up against Vikings E in third. Backers D, they take on Harlequins C at the NSC. So Ben, what are the connotations here?
Oh, it's massive. So if Cosney were to lose and Harlequins were to lose against Backers Mixed D, Backers Mixed D would take it by 1 point over Vikings E if they were to beat Cosney. But then if Cosney win and Backers D lose, Cosney would take it. But again, if Cosney were to win and Backers D were to win, it's that goal difference yet again, which could make all the difference in this league. So it's a massive opportunity between 3 teams. And the first game is 11:05, and that's Backers D against Harlequin C at the NSC. And at the same time, Cosney will be playing Vikings E at Castle Rushen High School. So big games there tomorrow.
To start the day as well. Be keeping an eye on this, certainly. And also, let's not forget, there is another game in there, 3:35 at Ramsey Grammar School. Ramsey Rookies taking on Backers Mixed Bucks in Mixed Division 3.
Yeah, both teams have had a really good season. Backers Mixed Bucks obviously were newly formed this season, and they've made a really good statement for themselves, giving good battles against all teams in this division. Rookies, though, sit a bit more higher up in the league, and you would have them as favourites, so I'm going to go for a Ramsey Rookies win.
And last but certainly not least, we have 3 games again, all pushing back at 3:35 in the Mixed Under-15s League tomorrow.
Yeah, and it's Vikings against Harlequins at the NSC, Valkyries against Backers at QE2, and then Castletown Sabres against Castletown Sharks at Castle Rushen High School, all at 3:35.
And as Ben Cunningham also mentioned before, if you missed it as well, on Saturday Live with Paul Moran, there'll be live coverage of the Mixed Premier League battle, the big title decided between Backers A and Vikings A at 2:05 at the NSC in Douglas. Ben, just finally before we wrap things up as well, this is indeed the last weekend of the league season, but of course there is one more weekend to come in mixed hockey in just over, in 8 days' time, I should say.
Yeah, so we've got next weekend at the NSC, we've got the Mixed Cup, Mixed Plate and Mixed Bowl finals. So the Mixed Plate is going to be the first game of the day at 11:05. Second game of the day is going to be the Mixed Cup, which is going to be at 1 o'clock. And then at 3 o'clock, it's going to be the Bowl to round things off there. And it's going to be a great atmosphere, all the games down at the Bowl. By all means, please do get down if you can next weekend to watch what's going to be a fine day of hockey. Hopefully the weather will be a bit better than this weekend.
And just speaking on that point before we let you go, Ben, of course, we are caveating everything this evening with the fact that we are expecting Storm Bert to arrive overnight and into tomorrow morning as well. So if there are any changes to fixtures in any way due to the weather conditions, where can people find out more information?
Yeah, so that's going to be announced on the Manx Hockey Association Facebook page, and also if we get word, we will get it out on Manx Radio as soon as possible.
Excellent, Ben. Thank you very much for joining us. Ben Cunningham, our hockey correspondent there. Well, thank you as well so much for joining us this evening here on Friday Sport Preview. And many thanks to our usual band of correspondents and guests as well. Fingers crossed we will get some sporting action on the Isle of Man tomorrow with Storm Bert imminent going into tonight and into tomorrow morning as well. And don't forget, you can catch up on all the latest Isle of Man sports news over at manxradio.com, looking for the Manx Radio Sports Hub. And this episode of Friday Sport Preview will be available shortly as a podcast as well. Thank you for joining us. Do stay safe out there. Bear those weather warnings in mind for tomorrow. Have yourself a wonderful Friday evening and a wonderful weekend, whatever you're doing. But from me and the team, until next time, it is bye for now.
Manx Radio Sport.